Organizations that do not continuously learn new things will die.
Wow. Okay, good morning to you
Yeah,
too.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit grim for a Tuesday, but that is the opening salvo of the material we're diving into today. And it's not meant to be a threat.
No, not really.
It's presented more as a law of nature, like gravity. If you stop moving forward, you don't just stay still, you start dying.
It is stark, but it's the perfect hook because it gets at something we all see, but we rarely understand. We look at these massive successful organizations,
Right?
companies with all the money, the smartest people, the market dominance, and then seemingly overnight, they just vanish or they become irrelevant. And we always ask, how did they miss it?
How do they not see the future coming?
Exactly.
We think they got lazy or maybe just stupid. But this deep dive, which is based on the three-box solution by Vijay Govindarajan, argues the complete opposite. They didn't fail because they were incompetent. They failed because they were too good at what they were already doing.
And that is the complacency trap. That's the central paradox we have to wrap our heads around before we can even get to the solution. I mean, the source material puts it this way. Future weaknesses are embedded in current strengths.
That is such a mind bender. Future weaknesses are embedded in current strengths. So the very things that are making me successful right now are the seeds of my own destruction.
Precisely. Just think about it. If you are incredibly good at making, say, film for cameras, you build your entire company around perfecting film.
Your supply chain, your engineers.
Your marketing, your bonuses, everything is optimized for film. You get so efficient at it that when digital comes along, you can't just pivot. Your whole anatomy is built to reject the new thing because it threatens what you're currently winning at.
So success creates a kind of blind spot. You assume the future is just a slightly better version of today.
Right, you think the future is just more film. And that brings us to the mission of this whole deep dive. Govindarajan offers a framework to break that trap. It's called the three-box solution. And I have to say, on the surface, it looks deceptively simple.
It really does. It's just three boxes. Manage the present, forget the past, and create the future. But as we went through this, I realized this is probably one of the hardest things for a human being, let alone a whole company, to actually do.
Oh, it's incredibly difficult. It asks you to be three different people at the same time. But okay, let's unpack it. We need to get what these boxes actually are because they're not just, buckets for tasks. They're mindsets.
Okay, let's start with box one, the present. He calls this the performance engine.
This is where most of us live, right? That's where the organization is currently living.
Yeah.
Box one is your day-to-day. It's the engine room.
So if I'm running a coffee shop, box one is brewing the coffee, serving the customer.
Even the lights on.
Right.
Exactly. And the whole goal of box one is efficiency. It's all about what he calls linear innovation.
Yeah.
You aren't trying to invent some new beverage nobody's ever heard of.
No.
You're trying to make the latte 5 seconds faster or source the beans 10 cents cheaper. You're optimizing the current business model.
And the material is really clear about this. We're not bashing box one. We're not saying efficiency is bad.
No, absolutely not. As the source says, the value of box one cannot be overstated. It funds everything. It generates the profit that pays for the future. I mean, if you ignore box one, you go bankrupt next week.
But, and here's the trap, if you only focus on box one, you go bankrupt in 10 years.
Correct. Because the skills you need for box one, discipline, standardization, reducing variance, those are the enemies of invention. You can't treat the future like an efficiency problem. It'll kill it.
You can't optimize a breakthrough idea. You have to explore it.
Exactly. Which leads us into the dark side of the framework, box two, the past.
The zone of abandonment. This is the one that actually made me uncomfortable reading it. Usually innovation is about adding things. We need a new app, a new team. But box two is all about subtraction.
And that's why it is the hardest box. It's easy to start new things. It is excruciatingly painful to stop old things. Govindarajan writes, the hardest question that many businesses never ask themselves is, what should we stop doing?
So why is that so hard? I mean, apart from the obvious emotional attachment to things.
Well, the emotion is part of it, for sure. But there's also something called the cannibalization trap. This is a huge concept in the book.
Break that down, the cannibalization trap.
Okay, so imagine you have a product that is making you millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It's your box one superstar. Then you have this new weird idea. It's risky, it's unproven,
Okay.
and worst of all, if it succeeds, it might make your superstar product obsolete.
So the new idea eats the old one. It's the cannibal.
Exactly. And most leaders will look at that and say, why would I invest in something that hurts my current profits? They resist it to protect the Box 1 prosperity.
The source material uses a metaphor here that is it's visceral. It says the organization acts like an immune system.
Yes, antibodies attacking an invading virus.
That is such a powerful image. The virus is the new idea. And the antibodies, they aren't bad people. They're the systems, the middle managers, the budget committees set up to protect the core business.
And they see this new idea, they identify it as the threat to efficiency, and they kill it.
And they think they're doing a good job.
That's the tragedy. They think they're protecting the host, not realizing the host needs to mutate to survive. So Box 2 is about consciously suppressing those antibodies. It's about looking at a profitable, comfortable legacy program and saying, this is no longer relevant to our future. We are shutting it down.
Even if it's still making money.
Sometimes, yes. Especially if it's taking up resources, time, talent, focus that you desperately need for Box 3.
Okay, so we're keeping the lights on in Box 1. We're ruthlessly killing our darlings in Box 2. Now we have to build the future. Box 3.
Box 3 is nonlinear innovation. This is the black box.
How is that different from the linear innovation in Box 1? I feel like people use the word innovation for everything from a new sticky note color to, a flying car.
That's a great distinction. So linear innovation, Box 1, is a faster horse. Nonlinear innovation, Box 3, is a car. Box 1 is about the knowns, the next year or two. Box 3 is about the unknowns, 10, 15 years out. It means creating an entirely new business model, dramatically redefining your customer, or just reinventing the value you offer.
So Box 1 is better, but Box 3 is different.
Different is the key word. And this brings us right to the central conflict of the book, the tension between the boxes. You have Box 1, which craves certainty and efficiency. And you have Box 3, which is messy, expensive, and just full of failure.
They hate each other.
They absolutely do. The text is explicit on this. Box 1 organizations cannot execute nonlinear Box 3 innovation. If you try to run a Box 3 experiment using Box 1 metrics, you will fail.
Can you give me an example of what that looks like?
Sure. Imagine a manager in Box 1. Her bonus is tied to quarterly results. She needs 0 errors. Then you ask her to oversee a Box 3 project, which is guaranteed to lose money for 2 years and has, say, a 50% chance of failing completely.
She's going to starve it of resources.
She's going to kill it immediately. Or she'll try to make it efficient too early, which just strangles it. This is what the book calls the rock wall between today and the future. Your success in Box 1 literally builds a wall that blocks you from even seeing, let alone funding, Box 3.
So how do you break the wall down? You can't just wish it away.
You have to pay for it. This is where resource allocation comes in. Govindarajan argues that you have to prune the Box 2 dead weight to free up the cash and the talent for Box 3.
It's a closed loop.
It is. If you don't prune, you can't plant.
It's interesting you use a gardening metaphor because that sounds so slow and natural. But in a business, this is violent. You're taking a budget from a VP who's been there 20 years and giving it to some, maverick kid in the basement with a crazy idea.
That is exactly what it is. And that's why most companies don't do it until it's way too late. They wait for the crisis. The whole point of the 3-box solution is to do it while you're successful.
Which sounds impossible. But the source gives us a case study that really grounded this for me. And honestly, it was not the example I was expecting. I was ready for Apple or Google or Tesla. But we're going to talk about a church.
The Willow Creek Association. Yeah, it's a fascinating pivot in the text. We're looking at a nonprofit, a religious organization, specifically leaders Bill Hybels and Jim Mulatto, and how they applied this ruthless corporate strategy to faith.
I think this is brilliant because it strips away the profit motive for a second. It shows how the mechanics work on a mission level. So walk us through how Willow Creek used the 3 boxes.
Okay, so they were already a massive, successful church. That's their Box 1. They were continuously upgrading the present. They reinvented their worship services, made the music better, improved the seating.
Yeah.
Optimizing the experience for people already in the pews.
Linear innovation, making the service better for the current customer.
Right. But they didn't stop there. They also engaged in Box 2. They realized that some of their old programs, things that maybe defined them in the 80s or 90s, they just weren't working anymore. They had to prune them. And in a church, that's incredibly hard.
Oh, yeah.
People are so emotionally attached to the way we've always done it.
Changing a liturgy is probably harder than changing a product line.
Much harder. But they did it to make room for Box 3. And this is the creation phase that really stands out. They adopted what the text calls seeker-sensitive strategies.
This is the part that just blew my mind. They decided to design the church for the non-consumer.
Yes. This is a critical concept for any business. Most organizations, they obsess over their current customers. Willow Creek said, "We are designing this for the people who aren't here, the people who drove past our building this morning."
That is such a fundamental shift. It completely redefines your market.
It does. And Mulatto, one of the leaders, he draws this really interesting historical parallel. He points out that the early Christian church grew from a handful of disciples to millions because it was outwardly focused.
It served the unchurched first and foremost.
Right. It wasn't a country club for saints. It was a hospital for sinners. That's a box 3 mindset.
There's a philosophical nugget in here that I think is the most important part of this entire deep dive. It's the distinction between the timely and the timeless.
Oh, I love this part.
Yeah.
It's the key to not losing your soul while you innovate.
Break it down for us.
So a box 3 idea has to be timely. It has to fit the current culture, use current technology, speak the language of, 2026. If you're not timely, you're just irrelevant.
Okay.
But, and this is key, it must also be timely. It has to be grounded in the enduring values of the organization.
So for Willow Creek, the timeless was the message of the gospel. The timely was the modern music, the drama, the video screens.
Exactly. And this is where so many companies get it wrong. They mix them up. They think their methods are timeless. They think we have to wear suits to work because that's our value. No, that's just a timely method from 1950.
Or they go the other way.
They do. They try to be so timely that they change their core values, they start cutting corners or selling data, and they lose their identity.
So you have to change the method to preserve the mission.
That's the bumper sticker right there.
Yeah.
Change the method, keep the mission.
Okay, so that's the theory. That's the inspirational case study. But I want to get practical now. I'm imagining someone listening right now, a mid-level manager, maybe a CEO, and they're thinking, okay, I get it. But how do I actually find a box 3 idea? I mean, I'm staring at my laptop. I have 500 emails. Where is the innovation hiding?
The author gives a very specific answer to this. You have to look for weak signals.
Weak signals. Is that like a trend?
It's the precursor to a trend. A weak signal is a weird little blip on the radar. It's a slight change in demographics, or a new way a teenager's using their phone, or a strange competitor that just popped up in a totally different market. It's something that just makes you go, huh, that's odd.
And the problem is, most Box 1 leaders ignore those blips. They just call them noise.
They call them noise because they don't fit the spreadsheet. And here's the crucial part. The text tells us who finds these signals. And I'll give you a hint. It's almost never the person in the corner office.
It's the misfits, right?
It's the uncommon wisdom. It's the people on the fringes of the organization, the sales rep in a remote territory, the intern who is on TikTok all day, the customer service rep who keeps hearing the same complaint that the engineers are ignoring.
Because these people haven't been fully indoctrinated yet. They don't have the Box 1 blinders on.
Exactly. They are living in the future that the executives are just trying to predict. So if you're a leader, your job isn't to be the genius with the idea. Your job is to listen to the fringes.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Listening to fringes is risky. If I chase every weird idea my intern has, I'm going to go broke. So how do we manage the risk of Box 3?
You don't bet the farm. That's another major misconception about innovation. We think it requires this massive bet the company launch. Govindarajan advocates for placing smaller bets first before placing bigger bets.
Iterative experimentation?
Right. Think of it like a low-cost probe. You have a hunch. Okay, spend $500 or 5 hours testing it. Don't build the whole factory yet. Just test the assumption.
The text has a great line about this. It says, if a failure is in your future, you want it to come fast.
Fail fast, fail cheap. If you're going to be wrong, find out on Tuesday, not next year. This is what reduces the risk. It turns Box 3 from a big gamble into a science experiment.
It sounds like this requires a very different kind of leadership than what we're used to. I mean, traditional leadership is about having all the answers. This sounds like it's about having the right questions.
It imposes a requirement for humility. That's the word the source uses. You have to admit that you don't know. You have to admit that what made you successful yesterday might be completely irrelevant tomorrow.
The time traveler mindset.
Yes. The leader has to think and act simultaneously in multiple time frames.
Yeah.
You have to be in the weeds of Box 1 efficiency at 9 a.m., making sure the ship is tight. Then at 10 a.m., you're in Box 2, making really painful cuts. And at 11 a.m., you have to be dreaming in Box 3 about a world that doesn't even exist yet.
I'm exhausted just hearing that. That's a lot of cognitive switching.
It is. But the alternative is the complacency trap. The alternative is that slow death we talked about at the very beginning.
So let's bring this all together. We have the 3 boxes. Box 1, the performance engine. Manage the present, keep it efficient, generate the fuel.
Box 2, the past. Selectively forget. Prune the dead branches. Suppress the antibodies that want to kill anything new.
And Box 3, the future. Create those nonlinear innovations. Listen for weak signals, place small bets, and solve for the customer you don't even have yet.
And remember the connection. You can't do Box 3 if you don't do Box 2. You can't fill your cup if it's already full of old cold tea.
I want to leave our listener with a final thought from the source material that really stuck with me. It talks about the concept of the blank slate. The text suggests the best way to exploit the future is with open-minded developers who have very few preconceptions.
It's a powerful idea. It suggests that your experience, the very thing you prize, can actually be your biggest liability. If you know too much about how things should work, you can't see how they could work.
Sometimes you need to wipe the slate clean to see the picture clearly. So here is my challenge to you, listening right now. We talked a lot about Box 2, about stopping things. It's the hardest box. If you had to identify one Box 2 activity in your own life or career, something that was once useful, something that got you to where you are but is now just a habit blocking your future, what would you kill off today?
That is the question. What do you need to stop doing so you can finally start creating?
Think about it. And don't let the antibodies stop you. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Goodbye.